Friday team representatives press conference from Sochi, and joining us this afternoon, Paul Hembury from Pirelli, Manisha Kaltenborn from Sauber, Graham Loudon from Manor, Paul Monaghan from Red Bull, and Rob Smedley from Williams. Graham, can we start with you? Obviously the big news as far as you're concerned, Mercedes engines for next year. What does it mean you can do now, and where do you expect to be fighting in 2016?
Well, you know, it's a big step forward for the team. If you look at the last, you know, from 12 months from this weekend last year, there's an awful lot happened in the team, and we've been very much rebuilding. You know, this year's been very much about getting back to really where we were probably about a year and a half ago. And this new agreement with Mercedes, AMG, HPP, and also with Williams, who obviously we worked with before in the past and had a very successful relationship with Williams before in the past, gives us a chance to really, you know, get back into the pack and you know, and really get back to racing, which is what we want to do. I think it's also pretty important to recognise the assistance that we've had from Scuderia Ferrari as well this year. You know, this year was a very strange year for us, and we were in a situation where without their help at the start of the season, we simply wouldn't be here. You know, so without the assistance of Sergio Marchionne and Maurizio Arrivabene, and also, you know, in particular at the start of this season, James Allison. There was a huge amount of effort went into making sure that you know, that our team was still on the grid, and I think we'll always be extremely grateful for that. But looking to the future, we've got a chance to you know, to level the playing field a little bit, and you know, try and get back into the pack and really start racing again.
And driver-wise, would you expect to be running one of the Mercedes development drivers next year, or is the field completely open to you?
Yeah, the field's completely open. You know, I think it's not easy for any driver to get into Formula One at the minute, and there's some quite good drivers looking to do that. But also, you know, the grid's pretty full at the moment, and you know, we have drivers that we need to focus on for this year as well, and so I think decisions on drivers will come for us much later in the season.
Okay, thank you for that. Paul, coming to you. Obviously a different tyre choice this year here in Sochi as far as Pirelli's concerned, super soft and soft. What difference do you expect that to have on race strategy?
Well, obviously I'm not too sure after today, in the sense that we didn't get any dry running of note. The reason for that was based on last year. You know, it was the first year here. We found the surface to be a lot smoother than anticipated. We had, I think it was Nico that ran basically the whole race bar one lap on the mediums. So we felt that we would be in a position to be able to use the two more aggressive compounds for here. If we get some warm temperatures, maybe that'll push us on to a two-stop race.
From what you've learned from the developments of this year, what kind of tyres do you want to provide next year in Formula One? More strategic variation? Any particular channels you're thinking of, pathways?
Well, I think there's been a lot in the media about maybe changes to the rules for next year in terms of the way that the tyres are selected for each race, giving more freedom to the teams, and that appears to be getting close to a final decision. So hopefully over the next few weeks we'll be able to explain that to people, how that's going to work. So I think that's the main change. We want to make some structural changes as we try to look at each year, particularly with the cars getting quicker. And there's a new super soft that we're working on to bring to the races next year. So there's a few changes, but I think the most significant is really going to be centred on the way that the tyres are allocated for each race.
Okay, thanks for that. Paul, coming to you. Obviously, as we were just hearing, very little running today for a variety of reasons, not least the weather. So talk us through how much there is to do tomorrow in that free practice 3 session. What does the job sheet look like?
Quite full, but most P3s actually do fill up. You tend to run near the end of the sessions. The track has evolved a little bit, so obviously we trundle out on a green track tomorrow morning. I think it will depend on what the team considers, or each team considers it wants to be its aims from P3. Some might do a little bit more work towards qualifying, others may do a bit of work for qualifying, and then try to have a look at the car's behaviour on higher fuel loads. And I suspect the majority will do a mix, and the bias will depend on what the team wishes to pursue more vigorously.
It's now October, early October, and you don't know yet what engine you'll be using in the back of your car next year. At what point does being forced to miss the pre-season test become a real risk? Presuming, of course, that Red Bull continues in Formula One next year.
Yeah, it's getting a little bit late. At the moment, it would be a squeeze, but we'll do it. I guess we could go to the first test and it can be a washout for 3 or 4 days. So it's wrong to say that anybody that runs the first test will automatically have a benefit on us. Yeah, they might, but we could cope. So however the land lies, we'll deal with it.
Okay, thank you for that. Manisha, coming to you, obviously the development since the last race, you've lodged a formal complaint to the EU. Can you tell us why and why now?
Well, to start with the second part, this has been a long-going process, so there's no real specific reason to it why exactly now. The reasons why we've done it for, I think we've explained earlier on. So what I can tell you so far is that we have, together with another team, lodged this formal complaint to the European Commission, alleging a violation of European competition law, and we want to challenge the rule-making powers and the privileges which together, in our view, harm the sport. I think we've been saying that for quite a while, and now this is the next logical step. We hope from this that the Commission will start a proper investigation. We hope that they'll put the sport onto a footing which allows teams to compete on the same basis, and that they will look into why the unfair terms, which we feel are unfair, were actually imposed.
And what are you hoping the outcome will be?
That essentially we have a fairer system in the sport, which the bottom line is that we can all compete on the same basis. That's it.
Okay, thank you for that. Coming to you, Rob, Felipe was in the press conference yesterday and said that the focus of the team is now on 2016, although there are still some development parts scheduled to come onto the car before the end of the season. What can you tell us about your 2016 car and the targets you're setting for it?
Well, obviously we've been working on the 2016 car as most of the teams probably up this end of the grid have been doing for a reasonable amount of time now. You know, certainly the focus has been fully switched to that car for a good few months. There are still things coming through for the FW37, so the 2015 car, but they're more corollary development of next year's car. Sorry. The targets are ever improving. I can't really go into the specifics, but we're looking at all the areas. Vehicle dynamics, vehicle science, aerodynamics, obviously, tyre science is of great importance to us, and we're constantly striving to improve that. So there's no one single target that we have. There's no one magic bullet in Formula One. It's more just about trying to improve every little bit.
There's a lot of talk, obviously, at the moment about engine supplies in Formula One. Do you feel you've reached the limit of what's possible as a customer engine team in this sport?
No, not at all. You could perhaps argue that if we were the second quickest team, but no, I don't think that we've reached the limit. I think that there's still more for us to do. I think as a company, Williams over the past 18 months has been improving. Some of that you see is directly affecting what we do at the track or our results at the track, and some of it's a little bit more subtle, but certainly there's still a lot more that we need to do if the team wants to make good on its ambition, if the team wants to eventually win races and then world championships. Then there's a great deal of background work, both subtle and fundamental structures of the business that we still need to look at. So I don't think that we've reached, we haven't fulfilled the full potential still being a customer team.
Okay, thank you for that. Let's throw it open to the floor then. Who's got the first question for us, please? Give us your name and your publication.
Ben Edwards, BBC TV. Rob, just a quick question on today specifically. You did a bit more wet running than some of the other guys. That's been a weakness over the last 18 months or so for the team. Do you feel as though you're making some progress? Was that a bit more promising today, what you saw?
Yeah, I mean, it's always very difficult to say because it's practice and you very rarely know what other people are doing. But on pure face value, I think that we are probably moving forward in that area. We have spent quite a lot of time as a group, and that involves all the groups back at base, trying to understand where the issues lie with our car in lower speed corners, in certain trajectory of corners, and in the wet. That work now, I would say, is starting to come to fruition, or we're starting to get some leads on where we need to take the car, and that's why you probably saw in Singapore we were quite keen to get lots of setup work in, lots of practice work in, and the same here. We wanted to run. We were a little bit scuppered by the track conditions that we had today, which were neither one thing nor the other. We had a weird situation where half the track was a lot wetter than the other half, and of course the teams who are confident in their wet running, they don't need to run, but we were out there, we were just trying to understand a little bit more about the tyres. We had to wait until other people were running so we could pitch ourselves against them. But I think that more than just the lap times, which are, can be a little bit misleading in practice, I think we're just happier with the drivers are happy with the balance of the car. We know we've got a specific problem in the wet, and certainly today that was a lot better.
Okay, next one, please.
Kate Walker, motorsport.com. Question for Manisha, please. Regarding the EU investigation or the lodging of the complaint, there are more than 2 disenfranchised teams, both in terms of rulemaking and CCB payments. What efforts did you guys make to get everybody in on the complaint, and would having more signatories have strengthened your case, do you think?
Well, these talks, amongst the non-privileged teams, put it like that, have been going on for quite a while. So they were always informed about it, but it's their decision not to sign it or not to support it, at least at the moment. I don't think there's anybody out there who would not support it, but they probably have to take a public position on that as well. We've always been transparent from our side. We've always told them where we stand, and it's entirely up to them, and they'll decide, I guess, when they want to join it or not, and they'll have their reasons for that.
Okay, next one, please.
Daniel Ortelli, Agence France Presse. A question about these privileges. Sauber has been in Formula 1 for 20 years, but gets no money from the premium fund. Do you think it's normal? And is it part of your complaint?
Well, we've been 23 years, actually, Formula 1, so more than that. I can't tell you details about the complaint because now it's an ongoing procedure and we have to adhere to all the steps there. What we have basically requested or asked the Commission to do is to investigate why these, in our view, unfair terms regarding the voting rights, the rulemaking on one side, and on the other side, the distribution of revenues have been imposed. We have asked the Commission to, as we see, abuse of dominance arising from the way these privileges have been granted in these 2 areas. So we have our position on that. We don't consider it to be fair. And based on that, we have submitted our complaint, which is, to be also clear about it, against the commercial rights holder.
Okay, next one, please. Name and publication. Okay, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Good luck for the rest of the weekend. Full transcript of the press conference available at www.fia.com. Thank you.